With the Advantech subfloor assembly, you can be sure that you're building a reputation on something stronger. And the best builders, well, they may always stand apart, but they never stand alone. So ask yourself, are you bringing your A game?
Hey everybody, welcome back. Steve Basic Architect here. Today is a great day. We have a new video, and today we're going to outline some of the building science challenges. One of the beauties of being an architect is that you get to design some really cool stuff, but when you design the really cool stuff, you have to figure out really cool details to put the really cool stuff together. So today we're going to outline some of those challenges and kind of set us up for some subsequent videos where we talk about the details and how we solve some of these challenges. But anyways, we got Big Red. Let's dive into those challenges. Hey everybody. So I threw out this. This is a simple line drawing, but it's of the 3D model. And I thought that was kind of the best way to discuss the building science challenges. Now, just so we're clear, every house, every building that we build has some level of building science challenges. Sometimes we like to take it upon ourselves and make those challenges a little bit more difficult and maybe a little more in number. But anyways, and a lot of times it is, well, I won't say a lot of times. I would say every time building science challenges, it's really about perspective. I mean, some people get really nervous about it, but we're going to break it down into some very simple terms and hopefully set up a pattern so that in future projects, we're not all stressed out. Anyways, remember from some of the previous videos, this is basically a box that goes into the ground here, right? And that's that two-story structure with a basement. So we have basement down below, and that's a pretty traditional build there, right? We have basement down here, first floor here, second floor there, straight walls. There's no recesses, none of that stuff happening in there. So that is pretty straightforward of a house. It's everything that we attach to that. All right, so we have this catwalk here that gets attached to it. So we have this connection here of where we have the outside deck and the water management of that detail and the integrity of the air barrier across that detail. We have over here, we have those board formed concrete piers, right, that basically the house sits on for a large percentage of the building. Now, the challenge there is, in compared to the more traditional here, I would liken them to think of this one as, you have a mitten on and the mitten is in your pocket. So it's a really cohesive bundle that is very tightly wrapped, but it really has a smaller surface area to the volume within, right? It's almost a perfect cube, this section. So it's a pretty easy dynamic when it comes to air tightness, energy, all of that good stuff. Now, the minute we break out here, well, this is slightly different. This is kind of like taking your hand, putting a glove on it, and then sticking your glove out into the air. And so you have an abundance of surface area. You have just that glove on, and it's not made into a fist, it's outstretched. And so it becomes a lot more of a challenge to fight off Mother Nature. And this is climate zone 4, so it's not quite the coldest place in the country, but it isn't Miami either. So they do get cold days. They do get snow down there. So we have to pay attention to that. So yes, building science challenges here, of course, are this open air underneath here. We have a flat roof here, which is a challenge. We have the flat roof that is over conditioned space that meets the wall. We have the flat roof that is over unconditioned space or outside that meets the wall. We have a low sloped roof here, and that is a 1 in 12. And believe it or not, I chose to vent it. So it is a vented roof. We'll talk about that a little later. And I know what you're thinking, and I've been told for the longest time that you can't vent low slope roofs, but we did, we tested it, and we proved it. So, and this is a 1 in 12 too, that vents in the soffit here and goes up and vents out the upper soffit. We have a deck here that is fully cantilevered. So there is a thermal break at the deck right there. So it does not attach. None of that metal comes into the building. You literally step out of the building, out onto the deck. There is no connection. The deck is independently set on the pier. The house is independently set on the pier. And we'll talk about that detail here in the near future. We have a whole series of windows where we have sill details, jamb details, head details. Some of these are pretty well protected. We get a nice 12-inch overhang. That's kind of a 1-to-1 ratio here as far as overhang to head distance. But we also have some windows here that are more or less, 1 to maybe 3 plus, right? So for each foot there, it's about 3 feet there. So they're a little bit more exposed. We have to pay a little bit more of attention to installing those windows. But windows are always, doesn't matter what kind of building we're doing, the windows are usually a very large building science challenge because we're taking the simplest piece of the building, which is the field of the wall, and then we're cutting a hole in it. And not only are we cutting a hole in it, but then we're putting a window unit inside it. And that window unit, has to get air sealed, water managed, air, vapor profile needs to be dealt with. The thermal profile across that detail needs to be dealt with. You can see that the site was on a sloping hillside, which is good for drainage, but we still have to take care of any water that comes in on the high side of the foundation. We need to bring that around the foundation and get rid of it. Dealing with that whole underside of the building, it's no different than the wall itself, right? And that's what I said earlier, that we're going to talk about when we look at the details, how to simplify our perspective. So a lot of people, we call this wall, we call this floor, and we call this roof. But it's very easy to say that, this is either a flat wall, or this is a vertical floor, or this is a sloped floor, right? Or sloped wall. The reality is that, Mother Nature, she has her set of rules, and we need to abide by them, and we need to solve for them. But the reality is that pretty much the way we solve for them in the wall is pretty darn close to the way we solve for them in the floor, and there is a pretty close relationship to how we solve for them in the roof. And we'll get into that. We'll get into talking about the control layers and our approach to it. But those are the general building science challenges that we were confronted with when developing this project. And so you develop the project, you get the look, you get the clients to agree with the look, they like what they see, and now you say, okay, let's figure out how to build it. And then we have to run through, okay, here's all the challenges that Mother Nature's throwing at us. How do we solve for that? And basically those solutions are what we put in the construction drawings. And we're going to look at those here in the very near future. So that's about it for building science challenges. Let's check out a few photos.